Claire pulled her sleeve up slowly, exposing the thick burn scars that ran from her shoulder down to her wrist. The coffee shop felt smaller suddenly. She looked across the table at Nathan, waiting for the familiar expression. Pity? Discomfort? The polite excuse that would follow. No one ever chooses me, she said quietly. Not after they see this. Nathan didn't stand, didn't look away. Instead, he reached for his own sleeve and rolled it back, revealing scars that looked older, deeper, angrier than hers. Someone left me because of mine, too. Claire pulled her sleeve up slowly, exposing the thick burn scars that ran from her shoulder down to her wrist. The coffee shop felt smaller suddenly. She looked across the table at Nathan, waiting for the familiar expression. Pity, discomfort, the polite excuse that would follow. No one ever chooses me, she said quietly. Not after they see this. Nathan didn't stand, didn't look away. Instead, he reached for his own sleeve and rolled it back, revealing scars that looked older, deeper, angrier than hers. Someone left me because of mine, too. The afternoon light came through the window at an angle, cutting across their table in the back corner of the shop. It was late winter, the kind of day where the cold seeped through the walls no matter how high they turned the heat. Claire had arrived early, as she always did for these things, and spent the first 10 minutes convincing herself it was okay to leave if it didn't feel right. But then Nathan walked in, tall, broad-shouldered, moving with the careful control of someone who had learned not to take up too much space. He scanned the room once, found her, and something in his expression softened. Not a smile exactly. More like recognition. They had started with the usual questions: work, hobbies, how long they'd lived in the city. Nathan told her he worked shifts, didn't specify what kind. Claire taught art at a middle school and spent her weekends in her studio. Neither of them mentioned why they were here, on a blind date arranged by well-meaning friends who thought loneliness could be fixed with good intentions and a comfortable cafe. 30 minutes passed this way. Polite, safe, the kind of conversation that could end with a handshake and a vague promise to stay in touch. Then Nathan asked the question that broke it open. So why'd you agree to this? The blind date thing. Claire had been stirring her coffee for too long. The spoon made a soft clinking sound against the ceramic. She set it down and looked at him directly. Because the people who know me don't choose me, she said. I thought maybe someone who didn't know would be different. Nathan's expression didn't change, but something shifted behind his eyes. He nodded slowly, like he understood more than she'd said. Can I ask why? Claire felt the familiar tightness in her chest. This was the moment. The one where she could deflect, make a joke, keep the armor on. Or she could do what she'd promised herself she'd do if she ever tried this again. Be honest. Get it over with. She pushed her sleeve up. The scars started at her shoulder and ran all the way down to her wrist. Thick, discolored tissue that had healed badly despite the surgeries. She didn't look at Nathan's face. She'd seen the reaction enough times to know what it would be. I was 19, she said. Gas leak in my apartment. I was lucky, they said. Could have been worse. The silence stretched. Claire kept her eyes on the table, waiting for the shift. The careful words. The sudden remembering of somewhere else he needed to be. But Nathan didn't move. When she finally looked up, he wasn't staring at her scars. He was looking at her face, steady and calm. I'm sorry that happened to you, he said. Claire felt emotion rise in her throat. It's fine, I'm used to it. Are you? The question caught her off guard. She opened her mouth to say yes. Of course, it had been 16 years. She was fine. But the word wouldn't come. Nathan leaned back in his chair. He didn't say anything for a moment, just watched her with steady focus. Then he reached for his own sleeve and pulled it up. The scars on his arm were different from hers, thicker, more brutal. They started at his wrist and disappeared under the fabric at his shoulder. The kind of damage that spoke of something worse than an accident. 5 years ago, Nathan said. Building fire. Got my partner out, but the ceiling came down on my way back through. Claire stared at the damaged tissue, the way it twisted and pulled at his skin. She'd spent years looking at her own scars in the mirror, hating them, hiding them. But seeing his felt different, like looking at proof that she wasn't the only one carrying something heavy. Your partner, she said. Did he make it? He didn't. The words landed flat and final. Nathan pulled his sleeve back down, not with shame, but with the practiced motion of someone who'd done it 1,000 times. I'm sorry, Claire said. Me too. They sat in that shared silence for a while. The coffee shop noise continued around them. Conversations, laughter, the hiss of the espresso machine. But at their table, the air had changed. Lighter, maybe. Or just less lonely. My ex-wife left because of these, Nathan said eventually. He tapped his covered arm. Not because they're ugly. Because every time she looked at them, she thought about what could happen next time. She couldn't handle it. Waiting for the call. Wondering if I'd come home. Claire felt something crack open in her chest. How long were you married? 7 years. We have a daughter. Emma. She's 8 now. Does she ask about her mom? Sometimes. Mostly she just asks why I don't have a girlfriend. Nathan smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. She drew a picture last month. Our family. Me, her, and this blank space where she wrote, "New mom?" Claire felt the weight of that. The way children could ask the simplest questions that cut the deepest. What did you tell her? That I'm working on it.
I don't see another way out.
Nathan looked at Claire then, really looked at her. I didn't know if that was true until about 10 minutes ago. Something warm moved through Claire's chest, dangerous and hopeful at the same time. I've done this before, she said. Not blind dates, but relationships. 3 of them, actually. They all ended the same way. How? They'd stay for a while, weeks, months. We'd get close. Then one day I'd notice them not touching my shoulder anymore. Or they'd only hold my left hand, never my right. Small things. Until they weren't small things. Claire traced the rim of her coffee cup. The last one told me he tried. He really did. But he couldn't stop seeing the scars every time he looked at me. That's not your fault, Nathan said. I know. But it still hurts. Nathan nodded. My ex said something similar, that she couldn't separate me from the job. Every time I left for a shift, she'd picture the worst. It ate at her. And I get it. I do. But I can't stop being who I am. Would you? Claire asked. If you could? Nathan thought about that. No. The job's part of me. But I also can't ask someone to live with that fear. So you just don't ask? Yeah. Claire understood that logic. She'd built her life around a similar principle. Don't expect too much. Don't hope too hard. Protect yourself from the inevitable disappointment. But sitting here, looking at this man who carried his own scars and didn't flinch from hers, she felt the moment crack open. A crack in the armor. A dangerous thought that maybe this time could be different. Can I ask you something? Claire said. Sure. Why didn't you leave when I showed you? Nathan's expression softened. Because I know what it feels like to show someone the worst part of yourself and wait for them to walk away. And you didn't want to be that person. No, but it's more than that. Nathan leaned forward slightly. When you pulled your sleeve up, you weren't asking for pity. You were asking if I could handle the truth, and I can, because I'm already living with my own version of it. Claire felt tears prick at her eyes. She blinked them back, not wanting to cry in the middle of a coffee shop on a first date. But Nathan saw. He didn't comment on it, just waited. I wasn't planning on doing this again, Claire said. Dating, I mean. This was supposed to be the last time. One more try, and if it didn't work, I was done. What changed? You didn't stand up. Nathan smiled, a real one this time. That's a pretty low bar. You'd be surprised how many people don't clear it. They stayed for another 2 hours. The conversation shifted to easier things. Movies they'd seen, books they'd read. Nathan told her about Emma's obsession with drawing animals, how their apartment was covered in crayon sketches of cats and dogs, and one ambitious attempt at a giraffe. Claire told him about her students, the way they saw the world without filters, how teaching them had taught her more about honesty than any therapy session ever had. By the time they left, the sun had set. The cold hit them as soon as they stepped outside, sharp and immediate. Nathan walked her to her car, hands in his pockets, his breath visible in the freezing air. "I'd like to see you again," he said. "If you want to." Claire looked at him. This man with his marked arms and careful honesty. This man who hadn't walked away. "I want to," she said. "But I need you to know something." "Okay. I'm scared. Of this. Of hoping. Because every time I've hoped before, it's ended badly." Nathan nodded. "I can't promise it won't. End badly, I mean. I can't promise anything, actually. Except that I'll be honest with you. And I won't walk away because of scars." Claire felt the tears again. This time, she let one fall. "That's more than anyone's promised me in a long time." "Then it's a start." Nathan reached out slowly, giving her time to pull back if she wanted. When she didn't, he took her hand. Not just her left hand, her right one. The one with the marks running down to her fingertips. "When can I see you again?" he asked. Claire smiled. A real smile. The first one she'd given in weeks. "When do you want to?" "Tomorrow's too soon, isn't it?" "Probably." "How about this weekend? I could make dinner. You could meet Emma, if you're okay with that." The suggestion caught Claire off guard. Meeting his daughter felt significant. Fast. But looking at Nathan's face, she realized it wasn't carelessness. It was trust. He was letting her into the most important part of his life because he believed she'd be careful with it. "I'd like that," Claire said. Nathan squeezed her hand gently. "Good." They stood there for another moment, neither quite ready to let go. The cold bit at Claire's face, but she barely felt it. For the first time in years, she felt warm. When Nathan finally released her hand, he stepped back. "Drive safe." "You too." Claire got in her car and watched him walk to his truck. He turned once, gave her a small wave, then climbed in. She sat there until his taillights disappeared around the corner, her hand still tingling where he'd held it. On the drive home, Claire thought about the scars on his arm, the way he'd shown them without shame or hesitation, the way he'd held her damaged hand like it was the most natural thing in the world. She thought about Emma's drawing, the blank space with the question mark. And she thought about the warmth spreading through her chest, dangerous and hopeful and terrifying. When she got home, she didn't take off her coat right away. She stood in the doorway of her apartment, the same apartment where the gas leak had happened 16 years ago, rebuilt and made safe. She'd lived here alone ever since, built a life that required no one, protected herself from the possibility of being left again. But tonight, for the first time in a long time, the apartment felt too quiet. Claire pulled out her phone and typed a message. "Thank you for today. I'm glad you didn't leave." The response came 2 minutes later. "Thank you for staying." Claire read it 3 times. Then she set the phone down, hung up her coat, and smiled at nothing. Two people who'd been cold for so long had found warmth in the last place they expected, in shared scars, in honest words, in the simple act of not walking away. It wasn't a promise, it wasn't a guarantee, but it was a beginning. And for now, that was enough. 3 weeks after the coffee shop, Claire stood outside Nathan's apartment building with a bottle of wine and a growing sense that she might be making a mistake. Not because she didn't want to be here, but because wanting it this much felt dangerous. She'd seen Nathan 5 times since that first date. A walk through the park, dinner at a Thai place downtown, an afternoon at the art museum where he'd stood in front of a Rothko for 10 minutes without saying a word, just looking. Each time, the warmth between them had grown. Each time, she'd gone home alone and told herself not to get used to it. But tonight was different. Tonight, she was meeting Emma. Nathan opened the door before she could knock. He wore jeans and a faded gray shirt, his hair still damp from a shower. He smiled when he saw her, the kind that reached his eyes. "You made it," he said, almost turned around twice. "I'm glad you didn't." He stepped aside to let her in. The apartment was smaller than she'd expected, but clean, organized. Children's drawings covered the refrigerator. A pair of pink sneakers sat by the door next to Nathan's work boots. The smell of something cooking filled the space, garlic and tomato sauce. "Emma's in her room," Nathan said, taking the wine. "She's been asking about you all day. Fair warning, she's going to have about 100 questions. I teach middle schoolers. I can handle 8-year-olds. Famous last words. Nathan led her to the kitchen, where a pot of pasta was boiling on the stove. He stirred it absently, then called down the hallway. "Em, Claire's here." The sound of running feet. Then Emma appeared, all dark hair and bright eyes, and an energy that filled the room immediately. She wore paint-stained overalls and held a drawing in one hand. "Hi," Emma said, looking Claire up and down with the unflinching directness of children. "Dad said you're an art teacher." "I am. Do you paint or draw?" "Both, mostly painting." Emma thrust the drawing forward. "I drew this today. It's a dolphin. Do you think it looks like a dolphin?" Claire took the paper carefully. The dolphin was enthusiastic, if not anatomically accurate, all curved lines and exaggerated fins. But there was something alive about it, something that showed real observation underneath the child's hand. "I think it looks exactly like a dolphin that's really happy," Claire said. "See how you curved the mouth? That's what makes it feel like it's smiling." Emma beamed. "Dad said the same thing. Your dad's got a good eye." Nathan caught Claire's gaze over Emma's head. Something passed between them. Gratitude, maybe. Or relief. Dinner was easier than Claire expected. Emma talked non-stop, jumping from topic to topic with the logic only children possessed. She asked Claire about her favorite color, her favorite animal, whether she liked pizza or tacos better. Nathan interjected occasionally, steering the conversation when it veered too personal. But mostly, he just watched the two of them with an expression Claire couldn't quite read. After they ate, Emma dragged Claire to her room to see her art collection. The walls were covered in drawings, animals mostly, but also houses and trees, and one ambitious cityscape done entirely in crayon. Claire moved slowly through the gallery, studying each one with real attention. "You've been working hard," she said. "Dad says I should practice every day if I want to get good. Your dad's right, but you're already good. You just need to keep going." Emma pulled out a large sketchbook from under her bed. She flipped through pages of dogs and cats and birds until she reached a drawing near the back. She held it up without saying anything. Claire's breath caught. It was a family portrait. Nathan on one side, Emma in the middle, and on the other side, a figure sketched in light, uncertain lines. Above it, in careful block letters. "New mom?" Emma watched Claire's face. "I draw it sometimes. Different people. To see what it would look like." Claire knelt down so they were eye level. "Can I ask you something?" Emma nodded. "What would you want in a new mom, if you could pick?" Emma thought about this seriously. Someone who doesn't leave, and someone who likes drawing, and someone who makes Dad smile the way he used to. The honesty of it hit Claire hard. She looked at this little girl who'd grown up with an absence, who'd learned too young that people could walk away, and felt something fierce and protective move through her chest. "Those are good things to want," Claire said quietly. Emma studied her. "Do you make Dad smile?" "I hope so." "You do, I can tell." When they came back to the living room, Nathan was washing dishes. Emma announced she was tired and wanted to go to bed, which Claire suspected was a diplomatic exit more than actual exhaustion. Nathan took her to brush her teeth, while Claire sat on the couch, still thinking about that drawing. Nathan returned 20 minutes later. He dropped onto the couch beside her, close enough that their shoulders touched. "Sorry about the interrogation," he said. "She's wonderful. She liked you, I could tell." "How?" "She showed you the drawing, the family one. She doesn't show that to people." Claire turned to look at him. "Does that scare you? That she's hoping?" Nathan's expression went serious. "Terrifies me. Because you think I'll leave. Because I don't know what happens if this doesn't work out. She's already lost one mother. I can't let her lose another person she gets attached to." Claire understood the weight of that, the responsibility, the fear that caring too much could break something that couldn't be fixed. "I can't promise it'll work out," she said. "I don't know how to promise that." "I know. But I can promise I won't disappear without a reason, and I won't lie to her, or to you." Nathan reached for her hand, her right hand. He did that now without thinking, like it was the most natural choice in the world. "That's more than I expected when I walked into that coffee shop," he said. They sat in the quiet of his apartment, hands linked, both of them thinking about the child asleep down the hall and the fragile thing growing between them. "Can I tell you something?" Nathan said after a while. "Always." "I haven't brought anyone home since my ex left. You're the first." Claire felt the significance of that. "Why me?" "Because when I'm with you, I don't feel like I have to hide the hard parts, the scars, the job, the baggage. You don't ask me to be less complicated than I am." "That goes both ways," Claire said. "I've spent years making myself smaller, hiding, expecting less. You're the first person who's seen all of it and stayed." Nathan lifted her hand and pressed his lips to her damaged knuckles. The gesture was so gentle it made her chest ache. "I need to tell you something," he said. "About work." Claire felt her stomach drop. This was it, the thing he'd been holding back. She'd noticed the way he deflected when she asked about his schedule, the careful vagueness about his job. "Okay," she said. Nathan took a breath. "I'm a firefighter. 15 years. That's how I got the scars. That's why my ex couldn't handle it. Every time I left for a shift, she'd picture the worst. And sometimes, the worst actually happened. She'd get calls. She'd have to wait. And eventually, it broke her." The words settled between them. Claire thought about the scars on his arm, the story about his partner who didn't make it, the weight he carried every time he walked out the door. "Why didn't you tell me before?" she asked. "Because I was afraid. That you'd look at me differently. That you'd realize what it means to be with someone who does this work." "What does it mean?" Nathan's voice went rough. "It means sometimes I come home smelling like smoke. It means I work 24-hour shifts, and I'm exhausted for days after. It means I can't promise I'll always be safe. And it means the person I'm with has to live with that uncertainty." Claire processed this. She thought about her own scars, the way they'd shaped her life, made her cautious. She thought about what it would mean to care about someone whose job put him in danger regularly. "That's why you didn't want to get close to anyone," she said. "Yeah. You think you're not worth the risk." Nathan looked at her directly. "I watched my marriage fall apart because of this job. I watched someone I loved become a shell of herself from the constant worry. I can't ask someone to go through that again." "You're not asking," Claire said. "I'm choosing." "You don't know what you're choosing." "Then tell me. Help me understand." Nathan ran his free hand through his hair. Every time I leave for work, there's a chance I don't come back. Not a big chance, but it's there. My ex used to stand at the window and watch me drive away, and I could see it on her face. The fear, the calculation of odds. After a while, she stopped coming to the window. Then she stopped saying goodbye. Then she just stopped. How long after the accident did she leave? Claire asked. 6 months. She tried. God, she really tried. But every time the alarm went off, I'd see her flinch. Every time I came home with a new bruise or burn, she'd get quieter. One day, she just said she couldn't do it anymore. That loving me felt like waiting for bad news. Emma was 3 years old. Claire absorbed this. The pain in his voice. The guilt. The belief that his job made him unlovable. I'm not her, she said finally. I know. But I'm still the same person doing the same dangerous work. And I'm still someone who's been left 3 times because of something I can't change about myself. We both know what it feels like to be too much for someone. The difference is, I'm not asking you to change, and you're not asking me to. Nathan's expression shifted. Something like hope moved across his face, tentative and fragile. You say that now, he said. But when reality sets in, then I'll deal with reality. But don't make the decision for me, Nathan. Don't push me away because you're scared. They sat with that for a long moment. The apartment was quiet, except for the distant sound of traffic outside. Claire could feel Nathan's pulse in his wrist, where she held his hand. Steady. Strong. Alive. I do get scared, she admitted. When you mentioned your job, my first thought was how much it would hurt to lose you. To wait for calls. To live with that kind of uncertainty. That's what I'm afraid of. That the fear will eat at you the way it did with her. Maybe it will. I don't know. But I'd rather be scared with you than safe alone. Nathan turned to her fully. Why? Claire thought about the past 3 weeks. The way Nathan looked at her. The way he held her hand without hesitation. The way he'd introduced her to his daughter, trusted her with the most important thing in his life. Because you make me feel warm, she said. And I've been cold for so long, I forgot what that felt like. I'm not ready to give it up just because it might hurt later. Something broke in Nathan's expression. He pulled her close, wrapping his arms around her, and Claire felt the tension drain from his body. I don't want to hurt you, he said into her hair. I don't want to hurt you either. But we might anyway. That's the risk. They held each other in the dim light of his living room. 2 people who'd been alone, who'd built walls to keep the cold out, finding warmth in the last place they'd expected. But the warmth came with complications, with a daughter who was already hoping, with a job that carried danger, with histories that had taught them both to expect the worst. When Claire finally left that night, Nathan walked her to her car. The air was sharp and cold, but she barely felt it. Thank you for tonight, she said. Thank you for staying, for listening. I'll keep listening, as long as you keep talking. Nathan kissed her forehead. Be careful driving home. Always am, but as Claire drove away, she felt the weight of what she'd learned. Nathan was a firefighter, a man who ran into burning buildings while everyone else ran out, a man whose ex-wife had broken under the strain of loving him. Claire thought about Emma's drawing, the blank space where a mother should be. She thought about Nathan's scars and the story behind them, a partner who didn't make it, a ceiling that came down, the randomness of who survived and who didn't. And she thought about her own capacity for fear, the way she'd spent years protecting herself, expecting disappointment, building a life that needed no one. Being with Nathan meant accepting uncertainty. It meant caring about someone whose job put him at risk every single shift. It meant potentially standing where his ex-wife had stood, watching him drive away and wondering if he'd come back. When Claire got home, she sat in her car and let herself feel the fear. Then she went inside and poured the wine she'd brought back unopened. Her phone buzzed. A text from Nathan. Emma said to tell you she had fun. So did I. Claire smiled despite the fear sitting heavy in her chest. So did I. Let's do it again soon. The response came quickly. How about this weekend? Just us this time. It's a date. Claire set the phone down and finished her wine. The apartment was quiet. Empty. Safe. But safe had started to feel like another word for lonely. And warmth, she was learning, always came with the risk of cold. She just didn't know how soon she'd have to prove it. 2 months had passed since that first coffee shop meeting. Claire stood in Nathan's kitchen teaching Emma to paint. It was Saturday morning, sunlight streaming through the windows. Emma mixed colors with fierce concentration, her tongue poking out slightly. Perfect, Emma said, when the purple finally matched what she wanted. She ran off to hang her garden painting on her bedroom wall. Nathan leaned against the counter watching them, coffee mug in hand. He'd been on shift the night before and had that exhausted look he always got after 24 hours at the station. But he was smiling. Claire caught his eye and felt that familiar warmth spread through her chest. This had become their routine. Claire would come over on weekends, sometimes staying through Sunday. She'd started keeping a toothbrush in Nathan's bathroom. Her coffee mug had its own spot in the cabinet. Small things that felt enormous. The moment Emma left, Nathan's phone rang. He glanced at the screen and his expression changed, tightened. I have to take this, he said. Claire nodded. She'd learned to recognize that look. The shift from Nathan the father to Nathan the firefighter, the way his whole body went alert. He stepped into the hallway. Claire couldn't hear the words, but she heard the tone. Clipped. Professional. When he came back 2 minutes later, he was already moving toward the bedroom. I have to go in, he said. Big warehouse fire downtown. They're calling in extra crews. Claire's stomach dropped. This was different from his regular shifts. This was an emergency call, the kind that meant something bad. How long? She asked. I don't know. Could be hours. Could be all day. Nathan was pulling on his clothes quickly, efficiently. Claire watched him transform. This was the part she'd been learning to live with, the part that terrified her. Be careful, she said. He stopped, looked at her. I will. I mean it, Nathan. Something in her voice made him cross the room. He cupped her face in his hands. I know you're scared, he said. I see it every time I get called in. I'm trying not to show it. You don't have to hide it. But I need you to trust that I know what I'm doing, that I'm careful, that I want to come home. Claire nodded, not trusting her voice. Nathan kissed her forehead, then her lips, quick and gentle. Then he was gone, boots echoing down the hallway, front door closing with a solid thunk. Emma appeared from her room. Did Dad have to go to work? Yeah, baby. Big fire downtown. Emma's face fell. She'd been through this enough times to know what it meant. The waiting, the uncertainty. Will he be okay? She asked. Claire pulled her close. Your dad is really good at his job. He'll be careful. They spent the afternoon trying to stay distracted. More painting, a movie, lunch that neither of them had much appetite for. Every time Claire's phone buzzed, her heart jumped. But it was never Nathan. Just work emails, texts from friends. By 3 o'clock, Emma had gone quiet. She sat on the couch with her sketchbook, drawing the same picture over and over. Claire looked over her shoulder and saw what it was. Nathan in his firefighter gear, stick figure style, a shield around him. Is that a force field? Claire asked gently. Emma nodded. To keep him safe. Claire sat down beside her. Your dad told me that when your mom lived here, she had a hard time with his job. She used to cry, Emma said. I could hear her at night. And then one day she just left. That must have been really scary for you. Dad said she loved us. She just couldn't handle being scared all the time. Emma looked up at Claire. "Are you scared?" Claire thought about lying, about being strong. But looking at this 8-year-old girl who'd already learned that people could leave when things got hard, she chose honesty. "Yeah," she said. "I am. Every time he goes out, I'm scared. But you're still here." "I am." "Why?" Claire pulled Emma closer. "Because being scared with people you love is better than being safe alone. And your dad is worth being scared for." Emma thought about this. "My mom didn't think so. Your mom loved you both. But sometimes love isn't enough if the fear is too big. Everyone has different limits. Your mom reached hers. That doesn't make her bad. It just means she couldn't carry it." "Can you?" The question hit Claire hard. Could she? She didn't know. She'd been asking herself the same thing for weeks now. Every time Nathan left for a shift, every time his phone rang with that specific tone, every time she imagined the worst. "I don't know yet," Claire said honestly, "but I'm trying, and I'm not going to leave without telling you first. That's a promise." Emma leaned into her. They sat like that for a while, both of them thinking about Nathan somewhere in the city, doing something dangerous, while they waited. At 6:30, Claire's phone rang, Nathan's name on the screen. She answered so fast she nearly dropped it. "I'm okay," he said immediately. "I'm at the hospital, but I'm okay." The hospital. Claire's vision tunneled. What happened? "Minor injuries, broken ribs, some burns on my back. They're keeping me overnight for observation, but I'm fine." "Which hospital?" Nathan told her. Claire was already moving, grabbing her keys, her bag. "Em's with me," she said. "We're coming." "Claire, you don't have to." "Which room?" He gave her the number. "But seriously, I'm fine, just banged up." "We'll be there in 20 minutes. She hung up and turned to Emma, who'd gone pale. "Your dad's okay. He's at the hospital, but he's okay. We're going to see him. We're going." The drive felt eternal. Emma sat in the back seat, quiet and tense. Claire's hands gripped the steering wheel too tight. Her mind kept spinning through worst-case scenarios, even though Nathan had said he was fine. Broken ribs, burns, hospital. Those words didn't sound fine. They found him in a room on the 4th floor. He was sitting up in bed, hospital gown revealing the bandages wrapped around his ribs and the fresh dressings on his shoulders. His face was smudged with soot, and he looked exhausted, but he smiled when he saw them. Emma ran to him, stopping just short of climbing onto the bed. "Dad, are you okay?" "I'm okay, sweetheart. Just a little beat up." Claire stood in the doorway, taking in the scene. Nathan alive, awake, talking, but also injured, in a hospital bed. Proof that the worst-case scenario wasn't just imagination. Nathan looked past Emma to Claire. Something passed between them. An acknowledgement of what this meant. What it would always mean. "Can I have a minute with Claire?" Nathan asked Emma gently. "There's a vending machine down the hall. Why don't you go get yourself a snack? Here's some money." Emma took the bills and left reluctantly. When the door closed, Nathan gestured for Claire to come closer. She crossed the room slowly. Up close, she could see the exhaustion in his face, the pain he was trying to hide, the worry in his eyes that had nothing to do with his injuries. "I'm sorry," he said. "For what?" "For this. For making you go through this." Claire sat on the edge of the bed carefully. "You didn't make me do anything. I chose this." "Did you? Or did you just not realize what it would actually feel like?" The question hung between them. Claire thought about the afternoon, the waiting, the fear, the phone call that had made her heart stop. "It was terrible," she said honestly. "Waiting. Not knowing. My mind went to the worst places." Nathan's face fell. "That's what I was afraid of." "I'm not done talking," he looked at her. "It was terrible," Claire continued. But you know what would have been worse? Not having you at all. Not being part of your life. Not being here right now. Claire. No, let me finish. Your ex-wife couldn't handle this. I understand why. It's brutal. But I'm not her. I'm not going to pretend I won't be scared. I will be, every single time. But I'm also not going to run just because it's hard. Nathan reached for her hand. His grip was weak, compromised by the pain and exhaustion, but solid. I can't promise this won't happen again, he said. I can't promise I won't get hurt. That's the job. I know. So, what are we doing here? What are we building if every time I leave, you have to live with this fear? Claire looked at their joined hands, his marked and calloused, hers bearing different fires, both of them damaged in their own ways. We're building something real, she said. Not perfect, not safe, but real. And real things are messy and scary and worth it. Are they? Is this worth it? Is it worth it to you? Nathan's eyes filled. You have no idea. Then that's your answer. We're worth it. Even with the fear. Even with the risk. We're worth it. Emma came back with an armful of candy bars and chips. She climbed onto the chair beside the bed and started distributing snacks like a tiny quartermaster. The normalcy of it, the simple act of a child sharing food, made the tension drain from the room. They stayed until visiting hours ended. Emma fell asleep in the chair, curled up with her head on Claire's lap. Nathan drifted in and out, the pain medication pulling him under. Claire sat in the dim hospital room and watched them both, thinking about choice. She could leave. Walk away now before it got deeper, before the fear became unbearable. Go back to her quiet, safe life, where no one could hurt her, because no one got close enough. But looking at Nathan's sleeping face, at Emma's small hand clutching her father's blanket even in sleep, Claire knew she'd already made her choice. Had made it the moment Nathan showed her his scars in that coffee shop. Had made it every day since when she chose to stay instead of run. Love wasn't safe. It never had been. Her own scars proved that. But it was warm. And after years of cold, warmth was worth the risk of getting burned again. A nurse came to tell them visiting hours were over. Claire gently woke Emma, who protested sleepily. Nathan reached for Claire's hand one more time. "Thank you," he said, "for not running. Thank you for not pushing me away. I'm trying." "I know. Keep trying." On the drive home, Emma asked the question Claire had been dreading. "Are you going to leave like my mom did?" Claire pulled over into a parking lot. She turned in her seat to face Emma fully. "I can't promise I'll never leave," she said carefully. "People make promises like that, and sometimes they can't keep them. But I can promise that if I ever feel like I can't do this, I'll tell you first. I won't just disappear. And right now, I don't want to leave. I want to stay. Is that okay?" Emma nodded, her eyes serious. "Can I tell you something?" "Always? I think my dad loves you. He looks at you the way he used to look at my mom, before she got sad." Claire felt emotion rise in her chest. "I think I love him too. Does that mean you'll be my new mom?" "I don't know. Maybe someday. Would you want that?" Emma thought about it with the gravity only children could manage. "Only if you promise to teach me to paint like you." Claire laughed despite the tears in her eyes. Deal. They drove the rest of the way in comfortable silence. When they got to Nathan's apartment, Claire helped Emma get ready for bed. She read her a story and sat with her until she fell asleep. Then she cleaned up the kitchen, put away the paint supplies, and finally allowed herself to sit down on the couch. Her phone buzzed. "Nathan, they're letting me out tomorrow morning. Thank you for today. For everything," Claire typed back. "I'll pick you up." "What time?" "10. But you don't have to. I want to. I don't deserve you. Yes, you do. She set the phone down and looked around the apartment. Emma's drawings on the walls, Nathan's work boots by the door, the coffee mug with her name on it in the cabinet. She'd built a life here without meaning to, had become part of something bigger than herself. A family that was broken in its own way but trying, fighting to stay warm in a cold world. Claire thought about her apartment across town, empty and safe. She hadn't slept there in a week. She pulled out her phone and texted her landlord, asked about breaking her lease early. Then she sent another text to Nathan. I'm not going anywhere, just so you know. The response came quickly, even though he should have been sleeping. Good. Because I don't want you to. Claire smiled and curled up on the couch with one of Emma's drawings. Outside, the city moved through its night. Somewhere, fires burned and were put out. People got hurt and healed. Life continued its dangerous, beautiful chaos. And here, in this small apartment with its second-hand furniture and child's artwork, Claire had found what she'd been looking for without knowing it. A place to be warm, a reason to be brave, a choice to stay when staying was hard. She fell asleep there, wrapped in borrowed blankets, and for the first time in 16 years, she didn't dream of fire. She dreamed of home,